All that and more coming up a little bit right now. Like I said, here on the Comcast Business Hotline Beyond Fast, we're joined by Matt Gelb of The Athletic. Matt, what's happening, man? How are you?
Yo, guys, what's going on?
Hey, Matt.
Hey, we got a chance to watch Vinny Velo last night, and we've all made the statement we're not going to get caught up in Vince Velasquez. He looked good last night. Unfortunately, the last pitch that he threw ended up in the over the center field wall by quite some distance in Yankee Stadium. But how did Vinny Velo look to you last night?
I mean, different, and I know that we've been fooled by him before, but I guess we have to take the context here is that, look, they're only looking for like maybe 10 to 12 starts for each guy, right, in a 60-game season. And they don't need Vince Velasquez to be, really, really good for 190 innings this year. They need Velasquez to be good for, 8 of those 10 starts that he makes possibly this year. And he has a different arsenal right now. He's not totally leaning on the fastball, but we've said this before. I mean, we've talked about this before, and sometimes he'll just revert back and start throwing all fastballs and trying to blow up by guys, and that's where he gets burned. But it looked like he was trusting JT Realmuto more, and that's something the Phillies tried to get him to do last year, and he probably would be wise to do that.
Now you look at the last night, you had the fastball, obviously, and then the curveball looked better, the cutter looked good, that his new pitch, the cutter, and was there a changeup mixed in there as well?
He threw a few changeups, yep.
Those are things I don't remember him developing really, even last year. I remember him working on the curveball. The other pitches looked like they were actually something that he had been using for a while.
Yeah, I mean, when he was struggling, I mean, he just tried to pare down what he was doing. I mean, he was, when he was going through problems, he would just try to simplify, and that meant he would be throwing fastballs probably up in the zone and some curveballs down in the zone, and, it was pretty predictable. I mean, hitters figured it out, and he's always had great stuff. I mean, I don't think we've ever debated that. He has tremendous stuff, and if he can trust one of those extra pitches and trust his catcher and trust the plan that the Phillies, really put forward for him, maybe they're onto something here. I mean, they're going to need it. I mean, I think their pitching depth is going to be really tested here, and I think specifically in the bullpen, they don't have a lot there. I mean, they're going to have to score a lot of runs. I think that's pretty clear.
When it comes to trusting someone, was he trusting Joe Girardi and Brian Price, for instance, by staying out there for one more batter, or was that his idea to stay out there?
Oh, that was not his idea.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah.
Well, I mean, these exhibition games, there really are no rules, essentially, and they're trying to get these guys as ready as they can. So, I mean, he didn't throw a lot of pitches in that last inning, and Brian Price, the pitching coach, wanted him to get to a certain amount of pitches, so he kept them out there. And in your mind, if you're a pitcher, you get that third out, and he kind of just shuts off for a minute there because he got it, he's through the inning, and all of a sudden he's walking off the field like, no, stay out there. He's got and he gives up a home run after 3 outs. So, these games are weird.
Matt, the question about this team is, again, the same as it's been the last years, and you alluded to it a little bit. It's like the 3, 4, 5 starters, maybe even your 6th starter if you go there because you're going to have so many games in little days. Are they improved there? Or is the 60-game stretch, does that help the question marks that they have in starters 3 through 6?
It might, Bob, because in a shorter season you can hide some of your deficiencies. Look, they're better at the top. I mean, Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler at the top, provided Wheeler is pitching for them at the start of the season, that's really good. I mean, that's better than they've had in recent years, way better. So, that trickle-down effect is that Jake Arrieta is your 3 now, or Zach Eflin is your 3. Spencer Howard's going to be pitching for this team at some point relatively soon, probably a week or 10 days into the season. So they are a little better there, but I think really where you see the issues coming up here is the 6th, 7th, 8th inning. I don't know who's going to get outs for them in those innings. They have Hector Neris and Adam Morgan and Jose Alvarez. And after that, I just don't know. And I don't think they know yet either. And given the fact that these starters aren't going to be stretched out, beyond 90-ish pitches to start the season, they're going to need the relievers. And it's going to make for some really interesting decisions on who's getting those big outs. And I don't know. There's a lot of questions there.
Speaking with Matt Gelb from the Athletic, so you did mention Spencer Howard. You think he'll be up after that 10-day mark?
I don't know if it'll be 10 days or if it'll be 7 days. I don't think he's going to be starting the sixth game like Bryce Harper wants him to.
Right.
Joe Girardi's answer was perfect. He's like, well, I would think that we'd want to stay on rotation that Aaron Nola would be starting the sixth game for us, and he's right. I mean, you want to get Aaron Nola as many starts as you can in a short season, and that means him starting every fifth day when you can do it, because that's the luxury of a short season. You can try to get your best guy out there every fifth day,
right,
so long as he's feeling good. I do think Howard's going to be a factor here, and maybe when he comes up, it's as a 3-inning reliever, which they're going to need because these guys aren't stretched out, or maybe he's coming up and he's going right into the rotation, during that second turn through the rotation, depending on how it goes the first time through. So there's a lot of options, and I think it's needless to say, he's going to pitch for them. He's going to be a piece. And we'll see how good he is.
Then the other young name that a lot of people are interested in is Alec Bohm. What do you think he ends up doing? Do you think he'll be on the roster to start things out? Do you think that he'll go down to the minors? How do you think he starts out his season?
Well, I think he'll start in Allentown with their reserve roster, and I don't think he comes up right when Howard does. Just because they have a really set lineup right now, even with the DH, and they're going to rotate guys through that DH spot. Jay Bruce will get a lot of those reps at DH, but right now, I mean, there's not, barring an injury or an illness, there's not really a lot of at-bats for Bohm right now, and that could change again in a few weeks, and it's great that they have him in reserve, and I think that's when you'll see him. You're not going to see him right away unless they have a need.
Matt, who's the player that you would say is going to come out of this short season as the most pleasant surprise for the Phillies?
I've really been intrigued by Gene Segura, and this is a guy who did not play well last season. He's at a new position, third base, which he appears to have taken really well to. He is leaner. He looks way different than he did last year, and he looks motivated, to be quite honest with you, and he's a guy that's really interesting to me. I think they got a not-so-good version of Gene Segura last year, and I think they're going to get a better version of him this year. But, when you're thinking 60 games, you're thinking about the streakiest guys. And let's not forget, Rhys Hoskins' first 60 games last year, in slugging percentage, and the next 60 games were not very good at all. And we tend to remember, his second half last year, which was bad. But his first 60 games are really good, and he's been known, the last few years as a very hot and cold hitter. A guy like him, I mean, if you get hot Rhys Hoskins for these 60 games, I mean, you could look up at the end of the season and he could have, I don't know, MVP caliber numbers. And it sounds crazy, but he did have that after 60 games last year. So, the streaky guys, if you start off cold, I mean, it's going to be hard to recover. This is just a 2-month season. It's so weird. I have no idea what to expect. I don't think anyone in the game knows what to expect. And maybe that adds to the fun of it, I hope. I mean, I hope they can do this safely, and I hope it's fun.
Matt, any word on Segura after last night getting hit by the pitch?
They weren't able to take x-rays last night because Joe Girardi said the x-ray technician was not at Yankee Stadium, but the trainers did some tests on his hand, and Girardi was pretty confident that he's going to be okay.
Okay.
There'll be more tests today, but there was no sense of alarm in the way Girardi was describing it. It is just kind of weird, though, that there was no one there to do x-rays. That's a little weird.
On that note, Matt, have you ever seen a player that's been more, I don't know, cursed than Roman Quinn? Gets hit the other night in D.C., gets hit in the back last night when he was they were trying to pick him off at first base, and obviously has had a long injury history.
Yeah, when he dove back into first base on that pickoff play and looked like he was hurt, I couldn't help but think about the time that he got injured on a very similar play in the minor leagues. He actually tore ligaments in a finger diving back on a pickoff throw, and like that is what goes through your head. But yeah, I mean, you look at a guy like him, a short season, he could be a huge benefactor of that. I mean, they don't need him to stay healthy for 5 months. They need him to stay healthy for 2 months. And we've seen in these camp games here, I mean, when this guy is on the field, things happen. I mean, he makes things happen. And he is an exciting player if he is healthy, and they just need him to be healthy for 60 games. So maybe he's a guy when you're talking about the shorter schedule who could be a really, it could really, really help Roman Quinn.
Speaking of Matt Gelb of the Athletic, the other thing, so I'm reading your tweet last night, and it's about former Phillies manager Gabe Kapler and how he's not going to hand the lineup card in until he has to, basically. That's his new strategy. That's what going into the night he was making news about, and then he made news for becoming the first manager in baseball to kneel during the national anthem. First off, do you think this is going to set a trend first with the lineup card, and then second, will it set a trend with managers kneeling for the anthem?
Well, so I was retweeting a really, really good story by our Giants writer, Andrew Baggerly, who now covers Kapler out in San Francisco. And, the story was about this idea here that we might see a rise in teams not announcing their probable pitchers, for the next day or the day after that, just because there is some uncertainty with COVID and who's going to be available, but also because teams just feel like they don't need to give away, who they're starting anymore. And the Gabe quote about not handing the lineup card until as late as he could is from a couple years ago. And actually, he wouldn't be able to do that now because Major League Baseball has, and this is in Andrew's story, and I highly recommend anyone, even especially if you're in partnerships now with these casinos, and teams have to submit their lineups by a certain time now in the day. And the way they submit them is they submit them to the league, because then the league then passes them along to their casino partners before they're distributed to the public, so that people can't get an advantage in terms of betting on the game. So some of these little deceptive ideas that Gabe and other managers have, might not be feasible because of the partnerships the league has with casinos, and what a weird thing that is, I guess. But I do think you're going to see teams be a little more deceptive with what they tell us this year. And remember, we don't have, as a beat writer, I don't have the access that I've had. I can't be in the clubhouse. I can't be around anyone. There's going to be less information out there. The teams are able to control the information way more than they have in the past.
Yeah.
So that might lead to some mysterious strategies.
It's basically, it's what football has been doing without doing it. Wink, wink, nod, nod. I mean, that we had just talked about the 90-minute meeting, 90 minutes before kickoff, is literally to say who's inactive, even go over the starters as well. So I would assume it's a lot like that. Now, the other thing has to be about the kneeling, and I know this is something that really bothers a lot of people, but Gabe Kapler became, according to Bob Nightingale, the first manager to kneel during the national anthem. Do you think this will be another start of a trend, possibly?
I don't know. I applaud Gabe Kapler for, discussing it with his players, with his coaches, and for giving his players and his coaches the choice to do what they want. He made a decision, and, he explained why he did it. I think we might see more guys do it this year. And look, they're voicing their opinion, and the league has made it clear that they'll support it. And I applaud Gabe Kapler for putting himself out there like that, because I'm sure he'll hear from people on both sides of it.
No, absolutely. Matt Gelb from The Athletic, we appreciate you coming on, man, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Thanks, Matt.
Mark Farzetta with Bob Cooney and Jamie Lynch. Mornings on 97.5 The Fanatic, Philadelphia.